Batman and the Joker have one of the most fascinating rivalries, not just in comics, but in all storytelling. Joker isn't just a baddie, he is Batman's complete opposite. The fact that their morals, ideologies, and philosophies are antithetical to one another is what makes their conflict so compelling. They work off each other so well, it would seem weird, even wrong, some would say, if the Joker fought someone else like, I don't know, Green Lantern or Hawkman. But since Marvel and DC are overloaded with heroes, supervillains are bound to face someone besides their nemesis at some point or another. Sometimes these sort of changes can feel a bit gimmicky, but sometimes they turn out better than the writers could have ever imagined. In fact, some of the most iconic moments in comics history occurred when a villain fought a hero who wasn't their own. So, in celebration of those villains who cross different rogues galleries, I'm Ewan, this is What Culture Comics, and here are 10 times supervillains fought the wrong hero. Number 10. Sabretooth vs. Iron Fist. Iron Fist, number 14. For decades, Sabretooth has served as Wolverine's arch-nemesis. He has beaten Wolvie to the brink of death more times than one can count and has personally slashed his loved ones to ribbons time and time again. Because of their bitter antagonism, it's hard to envision Victor Creed going against anyone except the old Knucklehead, or at least one of his pals at the X-Men. Strangely though, Sabretooth didn't start off as an X-Men villain. In fact, he didn't face Wolverine until nearly 10 years after he first debuted. The first superhero he ever encountered was Iron Fist, the Living Weapon. The pair butted heads when Sabretooth was hired to kidnap Jerry Hogarth, the lawyer of Iron Fist's father. Now, this confrontation didn't seem odd at the time since Sabretooth was just another random villain, but in hindsight, it's crazy that the cannibalistic mutant that caused so much anguish in Wolverine's life started off fighting a kung fu master. Number 9. Joker vs. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman, number 164. For millennia, the Greek gods attempted to manipulate events on Earth, but because of their vow to Zeus, were forbidden to directly interfere with mankind. However, during the Gods of Gotham series, Ares' 3 children realized they could circumvent their All-Father's laws by possessing the bodies of mortals and acting through them. Because Gotham reeks of corruption and probably 5 different other bad smells, the deities ventured there and seized control over the 3 most despicable people they could find. The god of fear, Phobos, possessed Scarecrow, the god of discord, Eris, possessed Poison Ivy, and the god of terror, Deimos, possessed the Joker. Batman tried to stop them, but quickly realized that he might have been out of his element. Since Wonder Woman has tangled with Ares more than anyone, she headed to Gotham to stop the Joker before he utilized his godlike power to lay waste to the world. The Joker wouldn't normally be able to hold his own against an Amazon, so it's pretty freaky to see the clown even the odds by summoning mythical creatures like chimeras and gorgon snakes. Number 8. Green Goblin vs. Punisher. Punisher Volume 8, number 1. Soon after Tony Stark was put in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D., he learned the Skrulls had infiltrated Earth and were preparing to take over. After an all-out war during the events of Secret Invasion, the Skrull Queen was defeated by, of all people, Norman Osborn. Due to Stark's failure to contain the Skrull threat, Osborn replaced him as the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which he promptly renamed to the very fascisty-sounding organization Hammer. When he began reshaping S.H.I.E.L.D. to fit its own evil agenda, probably giving all agents the same snazzy haircut, the Avengers realized they couldn't touch him since the Superhero Registration Act had criminalized vigilantism. The former Green Goblin and his Dark Avengers seemed untouchable. But when Frank the Punisher Castle learned Ozzy was using S.H.I.E.L.D.'s resources to fund criminal organizations, he became the skull-motifed vigilante's top priority. While giving a public speech, Castle shot at Osborn with a sniper rifle. Unfortunately, the bullet was caught by Osborn's bodyguard, the Sentry. When Osborn got wind that Castle was going to expose his connections with the city's crime lords, he ordered Wolverine's son, Daken, to exterminate him. After he tracked down Castle, the pair had a vicious brawl that ended with Daken chopping off Castle's head, arms, and legs, and Frank becoming Frankencastle. Still Frank Castle, and it's like Frank, so it's Frankencastle. Number 7. The Riddler vs. Green Arrow. Green Arrow, number 34. Albert Davis was a wealthy occultist from Star City who lost his mind when his family was killed by carjackers. To ensure no one would ever suffer a similar tragedy, Davis vowed to perform a magical spell that would cease all crimes in the city. He hired the Riddler to acquire key artifacts to conduct the ritual and paid the bowler-wearing supervillain for his services with an atomic bomb. The Riddler then demanded the mayor of Star City to give him $100 million or he would use his nuke to blow the city sky high. While Green Arrow and the other superheroes of Star City were distracted by the enigmatic madman's antics, Davis had ample time to prepare his crime-cancelling ritual. Upon completing the spell, Star City was sealed in an impenetrable dome, which deactivated all technology, including the Riddler's bomb. Worst of all, the city was then swamped by fiery demons who punished criminals for the mildest felony with lethal force. When Green Arrow learned the dome would increase in size until it sealed the entire world in one domey dystopia, he created a ragtag team to track down Davis to make him reverse the spell. Number 6. Juggernaut vs. Spider-Man. Tired of being defeated by the X-Men, Black Tom Cassidy ordered Juggernaut to kidnap Madam Web so he could use her psychic powers to kill his enemies once and for all. As Juggers made his way to Madam Web, she sent a telepathic signal to Spider-Man. Despite Juggernaut's immense size, Spidey assumed he could take him on due to his spider-proportioned strength. Unprepared for the crimson-clad criminals and human power, Spider-Man realized very quickly that he couldn't beat Juggernaut conventionally because, insert obligatory Vinnie Jones clip here. Trying a different strategy, the web-slinger placed his hands over the eye holes of Juggernaut's helmet so he couldn't see. While the Titan was swinging blind, Spider-Man led him to a foundation of wet concrete, causing Juggernaut to sink to the bottom. When the cement solidified, Juggernaut found himself entombed and unable to move. A simple two-part tale shows how the lovable superhero can defeat the most intimidating and strongest villains by relying on brains rather than brawn, and typifies the Wallcrawler's commitment to never giving up. Number 5. Venom vs. Iron Man. Iron Man number 302. After Stark Industries was falsely implicated in a huge scandal, society was under the impression that its CEO, Tony Stark, was living off the labours of the poor, which he probably does, given he's a mad billionaire, but since Venom sees himself as a guardian of the innocent, he tracked Tony Stark down and bit his head off. Thankfully, this Tony Stark was actually a life model decoy that the playboy billionaire was controlling remotely. Realizing that Venom was making his way to his penthouse and promptly going yikes repeatedly, Tony headed to the armory as quickly as possible, knowing he couldn't possibly survive a direct encounter with the alien without his Iron Man armor. As Tony darted through his home, Venom made mincemeat of the building, pulling off walls and tearing open elevators, trying to rip Tony apart. Luckily, Tony managed to get to the armory and don his costume. Instead of blasting Venom to a pulp, Shellhead reasoned with him, telling him Stark was innocent and that he'd prove it in no time at all. However, he vowed to return for Stark's blood if he learned that Iron Man was lying. Number 4. Doomsday vs. Batman. Superman Batman number 10. After Supergirl crash-landed on Earth, she had great difficulty adapting to her newfound powers and one of the many retconned origins that DC had come up with the character over the last 50 or so years. To ensure she didn't misuse her strength, Wonder Woman transported her to her home, Themyscira, for training. Because her cousin Superman disapproved and Batman didn't trust Supergirl because he doesn't trust anyone, the two superheroes headed to Themyscira to monitor her. Meanwhile, the Lord of Apocalypse, Darkseid, seemingly not content to gatecrash everyone's living room and sit there ominously on their couches, learned from a vision that Supergirl was destined to become a harbinger of death. Desiring new ways to wreak havoc upon the cosmos, I mean, come on, he is the Lord of Apocalypse after all, Darkseid opened up a boom tube upon Themyscira and sent an army of Doomsday clones to lay waste to its inhabitants while his lackeys kidnapped Supergirl. Despite the fact the island is populated entirely by Amazons, Batman put himself in the front line against the Doomsdays, only armed with an axe. Not only that, Bats is the one who leads the charge. Now, everyone loves some Batman. I love me some Batman. But it is ludicrous to watch the Dark Knight effortlessly take down multiple incarnations of a monster stronger than Superman. Although these creatures are described as animates and so wouldn't be as strong as the original Doomsday, this moment still comes across as pure fan service. Number 3. Magneto versus the Defenders. The Defenders, number 15. Okay, so one of the great sins of the Netflix Marvel shows, apart from cancelling Daredevil, how dare you, is naming the street team the Defenders. They're not the Defenders. Clearly, these guys are. Yeah, Doctor Strange, Hulk, Namor. They were like a supernatural Avengers, and their stories are well worth tracking down if you ever happen upon them. One of the team's standout moments was when the X-Men's mentor, Professor X, asked them to help him stop Magneto. If you're wondering why the Professor didn't simply call the X-Men for aid, it was because their comic was sorta cancelled at the time, and they were all being held hostage by a giant sentient island. So, yeah. Despite the Defenders' best efforts against Magneto and his Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the superheroes failed to stop Mags from awakening a constantly evolving mutant called Alpha. The issue included some weird retconning involving Magneto's origin, but it's still fun to see the X-Men get taken outside their bubble every now and then. Number 2. Spider-Man vs. Doctor Doom, Amazing Spider-Man, number 5. For years, Spider-Man was perceived as a menace due to the Daily Bugle's slant against him. Directly because of this, Doctor Doom believed that Spidey was a supervillain and so attempted to ally with him so he could finally thwart his enemies, the Fantastic Four. Doom is anything if not perceptive. The Latvarian monarch contacted Spider-Man by tapping into the frequency of an arachnid with a microphone. I mean, just don't ask at that point, asking him to join forces. When the Warcrawler refused Doom's offer, he attacked Spidey, forcing him to flee. At the same time, high school bully Flash Thompson set up a prank to scare Peter Parker by jumping out at him while dressed as Spider-Man, and you can definitely see where this is all going. When Doom spotted Flash in his costume, he assumed it was the real Spider-Man. Again, Doom is very perceptive, and so captured him. He then sent a message to the Fantastic Four, stating that they must face him in battle or he would kill Flash. For a moment, Peter actually considered allowing Doom to snuff out his high school tormentor because early Pete is a cold-hearted man. Unsurprisingly, Pete comes to his senses, located and defeated the maniacal dictator, and rescued Flash. And number 1, Joker vs. Superman, the Emperor Joker Saga. After the Joker stole the powers of the reality-warping Mr. Mxyzptlk, he remade the universe in his own image, or is that Mr. Mxyzptlk? I can't remember. Anyway, on with the voiceover. Although readers were expecting Batman to swoop in at some point to save the day, he was nowhere to be seen. It turns out the Clown Prince of Crime used his omnipotent power to trap his arch-enemy in a loop of torture and death for months on end. With Gotham's protector unable to best his greatest foe, this looked like a job for Superman. Despite the Man of Steel's might, he was nothing more than a plaything to the Joker. And so he went back to the drawing board. To prove his absolute power over the last son of Krypton, the Joker said he was going to destroy the entire universe. Supes appealed to the demented clown's ego, pointing out that he would never be able to torture Batman again if he wiped out all of reality. Filled with self-doubt, the Joker was left momentarily vulnerable, allowing Superman to defeat him and return his power to the fifth-dimensional imp, whose name I'd love to say, but won't, through fear I'll mispronounce it again. And that was our list on comic book villains who fought the wrong hero. Know of any other examples where villains packed their bags and struck up a rivalry with the new hero? Let us know in the comments below, and please don't forget to like the video, as it'll really help us out, and well, you'll have my undying affection. That's all for now though. Keep reading, keep keeping on. Bye.